Good day, love. Welcome to episode 90 of the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast.
Chia.
I am Coach Tensi.
I'm Coach Soul.
And okay, I was suggesting YouTube. We are Ufulu Child. Ufulu means freedom. And every day of the work week, we are here for the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast to dive into all things holistic health, all things self-discovery,
Right.
truth-telling, and that expression of creativity, of artistry also shines through as well. So we dive into the 5 elements of the Freedom 5, which are be, cleanse, fuel, move, and shine.
Today is Friday, so it's Shine Day.
Mm-hmm.
And SHINE is an acronym that we put together, meaning share honest, insightful, nourishing expressions. And sometimes when we go to share honest, insightful, and nourishing expressions with our friends and family, our good people, sometimes we find that to a fault, we go with their flow. What does that mean? It means to avoid conflict and or to avoid losing a friend or losing the frequency of contact with a family member. We don't stick to sharing honest, insightful, nourishing expressions. We might just share nourishing expressions without the honest and insightful part.
Yeah.
I never had this problem, so it's hard for me to think of a story of my own off the top of my head. And I don't call it a problem to belittle anybody else's experience either, but I never had this tendency to shy away from the honesty part. But when, let's pick a hot topic, right? Let's say you discovered the truth behind birth control. We already talked about it, so it shouldn't be a problem for Coach Tensi. You discover the truth behind birth. I was going to say, here's one, ultrasounds. But maybe we'll stick to birth control.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of truth behind all of these medical procedures. Anyway, and you go to share, you have an alarm going off. You go to share this truth that you found when it comes to birth control with your good friend who is currently on birth control. And instead of how you may expect them to react, which is, oh, wow, okay, now let me change my behavior. What you get is the hormonal, emotional resistance that often comes up, which more so sounds like, I don't believe in any of that. I don't really want to talk about any of that. What else is on the menu? Right? I don't care about any of that. I don't care as long as, it does what it says it does. Women have been, oppressed, and therefore I need birth control. Whatever the emotional, like, misaligned with truth response in terms of the words that they use, the energy of it is, I don't want to look at that, and I don't want to look at that with you who knows that I'm on birth control. And so I want to talk about something else or stop talking and leave. Like, I want to go and, suddenly do homework, or, suddenly go do this thing that I was supposed to do instead of talking to you, since now you know this thing and now, you're going to be judging me every time you see me. This is the energy that, is hormonally driven, and it um, results from something called conformity bias, which is like a short circuit of the brain when you're faced with a choice to go against a cultural norm.
I want to chime in
Mhm.
because you may not have experienced the inner turmoil of, oh my gosh, being honest about something, especially with, okay, I'm going to just speak from my own experience, right? And if you're watching, then maybe something in it you resonate with, or it sounds like you, or whatever, right? Um, well, for me, I tend to be somebody that generally avoids confrontation and conflict of all kinds. I don't like to rock no boats. I would like to have a very calm and respectful holiday. So the path that I have chosen a lot in the past has
Rich
been
Rising.
Kadela, has been to basically not talk about certain subjects. Like when I was growing up, my parents would say, okay, yes, when you're making friends, you talk about all the things you're interested in, but don't ever talk about politics. Don't ever talk about, um, like,
God.
religion or God. And I feel like there was a third one. I feel like it has something to do with money, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Probably not. At least those two. It was politics and religion. Those are like, people don't like to talk about it. Don't talk about it, and don't talk about aliens or the real history or whatever. Don't talk about all that stuff. So there was all these taboos around what I could and could not talk about, because I now had this story in my mind of, if I did start to talk about things that really mattered to me, um, then it would I would lose love. I would lose out on like friendships, and people that were my friend, they would find me out, and
Mhm.
then they would be like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. This sounds like really elementary, but low key, even into adulthood, the voice in my head doesn't sound like I don't want to be your friend anymore, but it does sound like, yo fam, they probably going,
Not talk to you no more.
yeah, that friend, y'all probably gonna find out you was really not on the same page whole time, and then what you gonna do, you know? So
Mhm.
maybe let's not talk about it. That's like the fear, like that part of the brain that's like the brain stem part that makes us come into fear and
The
wants to just
reptilian brain.
protect us. That's coming from that voice. It always um, speaks in absolutes.
Yeah.
And so when I am coming up, and it's coming up on Thanksgiving, y'all. Okay, so holidays are coming. This is the next testing ground. We gotta sharpen our swords, you know.
This will be the most
Oh.
information heavy Thanksgiving clapback season
Oh my god.
in the millennials' lifetimes.
If you've ever seen the memes, Thanksgiving clapbacks,
They know what a Thanksgiving
this
clapback
is not what this episode is about.
No,
And
but this is going to be the most informed version of that ever to. No, because people.
Soul's like, I am ready.
No, I stay ready. I don't have to get ready
Doesn't have to get ready.
because I stay ready. But no,
But you feel me.
the amount of information that people are suddenly all interested in due to this being a super important election
That's
season
real.
and all of that, and the hot topics still being the same. The hot topics are still government, racism, sexism,
Reproductive
abortion,
health.
whatever. And it's still the same exact topics, but now everybody's flooded with all of this info. Whether the information is accurate, historically real, or a mixture of truth and lie.
Yeah.
They are consuming so much information.
Yes.
And so this is going to be hilarious. To people like me,
Yes.
it's going to be hilarious.
Yes, and in the comments it says, I wanted to go away and do a solo vacation for these reasons. I love
Mhm.
peace. Years ago, I feel like that was my response too. Like, if I could just go to Costa Rica and or go to Ghana or something and just be out and just be on a farm somewhere and grow my own food and not have to deal with the craziness, that was definitely my strategy. And the more I feel like having Omi has just been a a call for me to figure it out while I'm here. I need to just figure it out because wherever we go, what if the craziness comes where I'm at?
Yeah, and it shall. And so in this episode, if you don't mind, we'll cut back in. We're going to talk about understanding the temptation to compromise on integrity and strategies to avoid compromising on integrity. And it's all because of this phenomenon that when you go and share um, something truthful with somebody that touches a habit that they participate in,
They get
or touches
triggered.
a belief that is very near and dear to their worldview, um, then the resistance that you get is usually either avoidance of contact or like a visceral anger.
Yeah.
And it's it's just like that, and so it makes us want to be very, very, very compromising on our truth.
Mhm.
But morally speaking, we have a moral obligation as human beings who are aware of truth and who have done not only the external work of seeking out what the truth really is and confirming for ourselves, by either reading the documents or talking to the primary sources, whatever it is, but also the internal work of
The shadow.
changing our own beliefs and worldview
Oof.
to align closer with the truth, right? Nobody knows all truth as an individual human, but to align closer with the absolute truth,
Raise that frequency.
the internal work. Those of us who have done both the external and internal work, we have a moral obligation to share truth with those that have not done either one or have only done one or the other. So,
That's
in
right.
understanding the temptation to compromise, there's a psychology part of it, right?
Right.
And it's the psychology of belonging. We want to fit in, we have a need to fit in, and we have a need to allow others to feel like they fit in, right? That's
Yes.
why a lot of New Agers always talk about
The
all voices,
collective.
all voices being heard,
That too.
right? Even voices that are spewing nonsense and dangerous ideas are heard, right? And we have to make them feel heard, and we can't hear their ideas and then say, no, that's nonsense, that's bullshit, because then they won't feel heard, right? This is a very compromising way of acting. And so there's a psychology of belonging that's behind that. And
This comes from
Mhm.
like back in the days when, think hunter gatherer, or even like, say you're in a tribe, right?
Mhm.
And in your particular village, growing up, you have to abide by certain protocols, certain rules and regulations, okay? Or you
culture.
can't be here.
Mhm.
Okay, you gotta go. You get exiled. So especially if you are I know in certain African traditions, there are these practices and just, I would call it like a code of ethic. And if you are violating this code, then you're now the outcast. No music group reference here, but you are the outcast. And it what that meant was you're cast out into the wilderness. You got to figure it out on your own. And that could mean,
Well, in those days, if you were cast out into the forest or the wilderness, you were gonna die. You were gonna die very soon, because
you
you
don't have the team
you don't have the team to cultivate the land. You don't have the buddies to look out for you while you sleep.
To hunt in a group.
Yeah, when it comes to the spiders and the snakes and
Or the lion.
mountain lions and all of the things, they're going to be there. A lot of them are nocturnal. So if you were cast out in that day and age, you were dead.
You might have been a little shook.
And you rightfully so, because you were
Yeah.
going to perish.
So this was like a matter of not just because and we talked about the hormonal hierarchy on previous episodes and how like we need love and connection and belonging and all of those things in order to be regulated in our bodies. Oxytocin is that hormone that gives us that feeling of connection and bonding and love. And when we're not getting that, then everything else becomes dysregulated. All of a sudden you got gut issues. All of a sudden your allergies worse than ever. When you feel disconnected from yourself, from your spirit, and from those that you really you care about.
Yeah.
So it's important to learn how to navigate these avenues. And for me, I feel like the reflection avoidance phenomenon is something I'd like to kind of get into. And sometimes people are like, reflection avoidance is like when people are uncomfortable with truths and they avoid the difficult work of doing self-reflection and growing. And so for so long, years and years, like, repetition is key, y'all. And I get a lot of repetition from my husband. And I would just avoid certain topics. Like, I wouldn't think about them. I would, just be like, I'm just going to meditate. I'm just going to, say my affirmations, and whatever they got going over there in the dark code, don't bring that around here, because I don't want it to amplify. I don't want to bring that into my world. First of all, there's some fallacies in there, some logical fallacies. Because if you don't know what you're dealing with, how can you really overcome it? Anyway, so self-reflection, reflection is similar to the word self-respect. Self-respect is respect is coming from a Latin word, respectare, which means
Spectare.
Thank you. Spectare. Spectare is to look. So to look again, to sight, to see again. So self-reflection also is kind of like that. We're looking at ourselves again. We are reflecting upon what we are, what we think, those mental patterns that we truly have, what we are saying to ourselves, what we're saying to each other.
And that's hard work.
And how we are not being honest
Mm-hmm.
with ourselves or someone else. And when we are seeking to share things that are true, like, I needed to start being clear and really stand on core values whenever I was talking with someone.
Right. Not to cut you off, but yes. So moving into the strategies for sharing truth without compromising. So you have the intention, okay, to share truth, and you know that, a couple times you've tried, and you met the resistance. You may have tried to go, well, wait a sec, this is very important because reason, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be whatever, and that didn't necessarily work. Here are some just basic practical strategies. Now, these not every strategy works for every situation, but here are some that we've outlined for today's episode that just kind of, keep in mind. And the first one is being very clear on your core values. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to showcase it through a story because oftentimes, stories are a way to reach people. And when you're being vulnerable yourself, when you're showing the pieces of how your mind thinks and why you did what you did, to get where you are, that connects more deeply to someone than you telling them you should do this, you should change this, pointing your finger at them, this is wrong and you're doing this wrong. That is something that you can easily take offense if someone comes up and y'all haven't really talked, like y'all don't talk deeply every day about stuff that really matters to you and peel back the layers. And there's like this air of, should I bring this up? Are you ready for this if I bring this up? When we tell a story, we can share our morals, we can share how we think through our core values, and we can do it in a way where we're not met with so much resistance, because you're just speaking about like something that you experienced, and people can relate to that. So that's often my approach when it comes to sharing honest expressions that are also insightful, especially with people that, I don't know how they're going to react. Instead of making it about them as far as the stuff they're doing wrong, I talk about how, I just realized I've been doing this thing wrong all these years, and how I felt about that. Like, it's frustrating to notice that. And it just brings the opportunity for there to be understanding and compassion. And when you bring that story to them, you can also bring a solution to them, instead of just leaving them with a problem. Like, you can also bring a solution that you tried, and maybe they could try something themselves if that's what resonates with them. But
Right,
at
or even a
least
start of a solution, even
at
if it's not
least
a
the
complete
start.
solution that's going to solve the problem outright, something that you are interested in now that can start to move things in the direction of a solution.
Like, I have an example. We talked about birth control, so I'm going to give a birth control
Right.
example. For years, I had these crazy heavy cycles, and I would be in a fetal position, curled up crying, because my cramps would be so heavy, and I couldn't really eat anything without it coming right back up. TMI maybe, but hey, it was what it is. So I was really struggling, and I thought that, whenever we started dating, that I should be on birth control. I mean, that's what my mother recommended to me, that because she didn't know any other way to, avoid me getting pregnant by accidents, should my route of, like, say, 18 and up, say a condom breaks or something like that. So I'm just saying, because we got babies. There is a really big push for birth control for every little thing, and they're even pushing it to like 9-year-olds to help balance their hormones or help with heavy cycles. But what we learned in the previous episode of this podcast is on Cleanse Day, on Tuesday, when we looked at that medicine insert, the package insert rather, on the FDA website for birth control. That's
For a
super
very
common.
popular, birth
One of the
control.
most popular ones. It is that it makes your cycles worse. It causes more irregular bleeding, which is
Among
what you
a whole
wanted to,
bunch of others. Direct
among with
effects.
cancers and cysts and all of the things. So, and it also messes up your hormones, so that you stop craving or seeking out partners that would be complementary to your biology and complementary to support your immune system, support your hormonal balance, and offer that balancing that is helpful. So I'm getting there. I'm almost there. So in my process, after doing this research, I realized, oh my gosh, it's actually worse off than it puts you worse off than I thought. Like, I thought it was actually helping stuff, but it's actually not. It's just masking some things. So what I started looking at after I found this out is, okay, what are the alternatives? What can I do? Because, I still, at the time, I may not want to become pregnant as soon. I don't necessarily want to have a child right now. And I don't necessarily also want to use latex or things like that, or these other hormonal disrupting things that I can take into my body, or a device I can put into my body. I don't want to do all that. So how can I start to balance my hormones, bring the mood swings and all those things into balance, while also rebuilding up my body from all the stuff it's been fighting against with these medications? And what I came across was this podcast. It's called Fertility Fridays. I don't remember the lady's name. She's amazing, and she wrote a book called The Fifth Vital Sign. And she talked about charting your cycle and how you can only get pregnant at just this specific window within your month for women, and it's only when you're ovulating in a few days before, a few days after. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so wild to even know that, because I thought you could get pregnant every day, and I didn't even know what ovulation was. I didn't know what it really meant to have my hormones in balance. What are my hormones? All of this stuff. And so whenever I started charting my cycle and keeping track of when stuff was going down, I was also able to, one, get my body ready for when I did want to have a baby, and on the flip side, know when those times were to not have sex, so that I didn't have a child when I'm still recovering. My body still needs like a whole at least 9 months, if not a year, to recover after having my first child. So that gave me a solution to where it wasn't harming me. It wasn't harming someone else, because birth control also harms a nursing child, right? Um, and it was something that gave me the power again, because one, um, I could have some confidence in myself and in my ability to change. So you could bring that up to someone, and in terms of just an example as a story, to share your own experience, and you're not saying to someone else you have to do this, but it's like, wow, that's what you saw, that this thing wasn't working, and you tried this, and you know were met with some consequences, but the solution also came up, and that actually made it easier. Maybe I might try that too.
Right. Right. And so not necessarily approaching people with you're doing this wrong thing, you should be doing this right thing, end of story. Right. Um, and also, approaching people with a sense of compassion and not condescension. Not when you're met with the resistance, not going, well, if you continue down this path, what the fuck you think is going to happen? Excuse my language.
Everyone's on different journeys.
What do you think is going to happen if and that kind of energy, it feels condescending.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay, well, good luck. And it's like, that's not compassionate. That's not giving
Room
space
to grow, or
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's not giving them space to go from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah.
It's trying to basically push somebody before they're ready to, force somebody to move forward before they're necessarily ready to, or just shame somebody into it. Now, as far as certain behaviors, I do believe in shame. We can talk about that at a different time. This episode is just about approaching like your friends and family with truth and shining on them, sharing honest, insightful, nourishing expressions. Not necessarily like the society that you live in shames a certain activity because it's really, really dangerous if everyone were to do it. Anyway, just a side note, I don't think we should completely do away with shame. I think it's a tool that can be pulled out if necessary. Different conversation for a different day.
Touche. Like, say for
different conversation for a different day. The third, so be clear on your values. A great way to do that also is to reflect on your values before you have a conversation with a specific person. What I mean is, if I was going to talk to my mom about something regarding government, okay, she just happens to be really passionate about certain things when it comes to that overarching umbrella topic. And I knew that she was holding on to a belief that was wrong about a certain piece of government.
Mm-hmm.
then before saying anything, I may take some time to reflect, let's say in the car on the way or before I make the call or whatever, write the comment, send it, send the text message, whatever it is, reflect on what my non-negotiable morals and values are at this moment, and just use those as an anchor when I face the almost inevitable resistance to whatever I'm sharing, right? So be clear on your core values. Second is approach with compassion and don't be condescending. Third, set firm boundaries.
Mhm.
Avoid being drawn into arguments and pressured to dilute your message
Yeah.
because you're already taken care of. You're not being condescending. You're not being mean for no reason, and you're not leaving behind your non-negotiable ethical code. Pardon me, right, or spiritual code, if you want to call it that. So you're not going to dilute your message just so it can be more palatable. You're standing on business. You're standing 10 toes down, standing on your square.
And you can still be open to hearing from them and hearing their feedback at the same time.
And demonstrating that, through your story, through the story of how you learned it, what you changed, and what your solution or start to a solution is in your own life. You're sharing the message through not just you're doing this wrong thing and you should do this right thing, end of story, but I was doing this wrong thing, I learned about this, or my friends were doing this wrong thing, my friends and I learned about this, and now my friends are doing this, and this is the result. A story is much more effective
Yeah.
in setting and staying firm on your boundary lines, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, and in terms of boundaries, one thing, because this is something that I've really struggled with, especially with, it's kind of like the deeper that we get in exploring certain topics with people that we
You're
care about, and we don't really talk about certain things with
hey
people we
hey
love. Um, Firm boundaries is crucial.
Yep.
And one way, maybe we can give like an example of a firm boundary. So, and if you're listening, if you have any ideas, you drop them in the comments, right? So, firm boundaries when it comes to presenting truth that may not want to be received, or you think may not be people may not be ready for. Um, it could look like setting a parameter for, hey, I'm open to talking about this, but when it comes to um, my my uh, doing this in a public space, maybe not this other part. Or like what could a firm boundary look like to you?
um
I'm
in
not
this
I'm not gonna harm my child, or I mean, I don't want it to be like,
extreme,
well, I'm
no.
not trying to harm your baby either,
Well, it kind of depends on what the conversation is, but basically, if you're sharing something, and we're trying to avoid naming, going too deep into actual topics. We did with birth control because that was the example, but basically, we don't want to turn this into this is what you should believe
Yeah.
episode. But let's say um, you're talking with somebody and they think that what and like I said, you've done the external work and the internal work to reflect on whether or not this is actually true and actually where you stand already before that, and you've reflected on your core values, your
Mhm.
non-negotiable moral and ethical code before
Mhm.
having the conversation. Okay, with that understood, you go into the conversation, and what you hear from them is, oh my god, you're so stupid, oh, you're one of them, or something like that. It could be a firm boundary of yours that, look, if you're going to just throw
Mm.
insults out, then
Then we
we're
can't
not
have
going to be
this
able to,
conversation.
right, we're not going to be able to move
Mhm.
forward, and I won't be able to share with you the story of how I came to this awakening.
Yes.
And that's very important. If they're not open to hearing at
Yes.
all, um,
Some non-negotiables about
what yeah, so it could be about what we're talking about. It could be,
being
things like,
respectful.
don't bring my child or my parents into this conversation. They don't have anything to do with this conversation. Or don't make this all about you. Let's keep this about the community and about the topic, or whatever. Whatever the firm boundary is, just having boundaries is a good way to anchor yourself to what you're trying to share, and coming from a place of compassion. We have another comment on Instagram
Yes,
real
it
quick.
says, I agree. Adult parents and adult children, boundaries with conversations. There's a time and place.
Hmm.
Yes, there is a time and place. Maybe the most personal things, not at the a dinner table at Thanksgiving.
Right.
But there are, I like that you mentioned, like, what you just said. It reminded me of when people are like cursing at each other. Like, that's a firm boundary. We're not gonna do that. Okay, you're not gonna spew insults at me
Why is
and
my laptop
expect
not plugged in?
to. Oh, because I unplugged it. There. Thank you. I was struggling. Okay, laptop now plugged in.
Yeah, we're good.
So that time and place, that reminds me of the importance of knowing when to step back. Because sometimes if
Which is the fourth strategy.
they're already on level 10, okay, and it was just a brief mention of something, and you already came with the, whoa, I'm not attacking you. I am wanting to have a conversation, and then you're met with more crazy high resistance. Maybe it's a good time to step back. So knowing when to step back versus plowing forward is also a piece of wisdom, to apply some wisdom and knowing when to step back. Step back doesn't mean, okay, sure, you're right, whatever, I'll not talk about it ever. That's not being honest.
That's compromise.
Well, compromise can still hold honesty, but that's
compromising on integrity.
compromising on integrity.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that, but we could say, okay, this is probably not the best time for us to have this conversation, since it seems emotions are already very high. Okay.
Yeah. And I also have an anecdote for knowing when to step back. So I have a lot of family members that are very hip hop oriented, right? As we would say, hip hop orientated. This is how it would come out, okay? And they have attached themselves to the celebrities that have made it very far when it comes to hip hop. Pardon me. I was going to say hormones. Just always talk about hormones in the show.
Yes, we do.
And so, in bringing to light the conditioning that comes with lyrics in songs that are degrading to yourself and degrading to your community and degrading to just human beings in general, um, I was met with lots and lots of resistance from a very, very close family member, one of the family members that helped a lot in raising me. And so I had to use some of these strategies of speaking from a place of, storytelling, where I'm using a lot of I statements instead of a lot of you statements, and trying to point the finger outward and getting my point across. And then when I noticed that the resistance was over a certain level, I had to just step away from the conversation, which was a strategy. And when I came back to the conversation weeks later, they were more receptive, because it's like I planted the seed, and then the seed was given time to grow. And the way that I stepped away from the conversation wasn't condescending, right? It wasn't, all right, you're this conversation's above your level, and you're just morally bad, and you're okay with badness, and so I'm going to step away from this conversation because you suck. It wasn't that.
Goodness.
It was just, we can talk about something else or something, whatever.
Respectfully.
And coming back, it was, and by the way, I was thinking about, what you said, weeks ago or whatever, and this is what I think about now, and yada yada yada. And it was a much more pleasant conversation, and we ended up actually agreeing on a lot and not agreeing on the whole thing, and it was a movement toward the truth about the thing. So
yes, sometimes people just need time after you plant a little seed, then give us some time.
Yeah.
And then come back. Consistency is key. You're reminding them, hey, we're on the same team. It's all good. I love you regardless. Unconditional love. But what we're not gonna do up in here. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that up in here. Okay. Yes. So
on social media, though,
babe,
I am vicious.
it's I feel like it should be the same everywhere.
I'm not the same everywhere. I'm not fake, but to a certain degree, I return the energy that's given to me plus some if the energy is negative. And I do the same actually if the energy is positive. And so on social media,
Be warned.
I don't follow all of these strategies because oftentimes on social media, most of the time on social media, I'm speaking with strangers. And when I am speaking with somebody that I know or somebody that I respect, then they get, way less of the what's called veracity, they get way less of the bear, the lions, tigers, and bears.
Okay.
But
still authenticity.
These strategies do work on social media if you do implement them in sharing, truth about things that may be perceived as controversial, but for you are now common sense.
Yeah.
I'm not good at being
yet
as compassionate on social media as I am in being, in person. Yeah. Even with strangers in person, it's a little different
because you can see them. It's different when you're behind the keyboard, and they are as well. I still think I do my best to remain the same on social media, in person, and with close family. But it takes a lot to stay grounded. And also, I haven't been talking about as controversial of things. I mean, health is controversial these days, but so there's also that. But staying grounded in your beliefs, well, beyond beliefs, in truth, staying grounded in objective truth is really a great place to start. And when you are rooted in truth that is true always, that universal law, the knowing of, okay, am I doing harm to someone else by sharing this? Or if I don't share this, will they end up hurting themselves unknowingly or being hurt by these systems unknowingly if I remain silent? These are the things to consider, because whether we are trying, we have to stop being nice just to make people feel good, if that is at the expense of sharing truth that can truly help someone change their lives in a direction that is healing, that is fulfilling to them long term. Okay. It's good to be kind, and kindness also means you're being truthful. So
yeah. So as much as you can, and as many places as you can, lead by example. Use these strategies. Share your truth. One way that I'm sharing my truth in a completely, authentic way is I wrote a nonfiction book about
it's so good,
about truth and about topics that may be seen as controversial, like government, like money, like religion, and culture, and how culture for thousands of years has been manipulated by the few to benefit the few at the expense of the many. And it's called culture control. Why the love of money is objectively the root of all evil. If you click the link in the description, or you click the link in the bio or the about page for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, then you can get to the list. It's the third link on the link tree, the third one from the top. You can get a copy of the book. It's available in both ebook form and paperback. So you can get a physical copy and or just get the ebook. And you gotta hit no thanks or something. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. So we do have some other announcements I did want to share with y'all, because we have some events if you're in Austin, and beyond that as well. In that same link tree, we of course, there's the link to this podcast. So if you are not already subscribed or following us on the platform of your choice, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, then please do that so that you get notified when we do go live every weekday, in the early day, around 6:30ish. So of course, you mentioned the book. We also are selling the whole body butter, which is great for aches and pains in the lower back. It's great for head to toe moisturization, and it doesn't have any hormone disruptors. Thank goodness. Literally no toxins, no excitotoxins,
You
no
said events.
sneaky things. Oh, events, yes. There is. Thank you. On our website, we have 3 events going on right now. There's a hip hop theater explosion. Tonight and tomorrow night are the last 2 nights. Soul's doing a different set every night. His favorite set is tomorrow night. Mine is Saturday night. So y'all gotta come see both.
You said it wrong. Today's Friday.
Friday night. Your
His-
favorite set is tonight. I thought that's what I said.
You said tomorrow night.
Tonight. My favorite is tomorrow night. That's probably why that happened that way. You can get tickets in the link in our bio. It's only $15 a person, and the show is phenomenal. There's like a tap dancing hip hop, someone tap dancing to hip hop music, and she is fire, man. There's so much. That's just one of the many. And there's also the MothWorks workshop that's happening on November 19th. So we'll give some more information about that, but it's free for artists, creatives, creative businesses, arts partners, art educators, and like. So that's bringing some mindfulness, coming out of chaos and into some peace as you're moving through your workday, as you're moving through your life as well. And then we also I'm co-facilitating with the Sustainable Food Center here in Austin. There's a 6-week series that's going on. There's another one that just started this past week. Now we're still accepting drop-in, walk-ins. And it's completely free. It's a nutrition class mixed with a cooking class, and you get free groceries. And some of these groceries are sourced from local farms, as long as the stuff is in season. And we do our best to make sure that every recipe is in season. You get a free recipe. And at the end of the Shaboot Bam, you get a free recipe book, cookbook, and some kitchen gadgets. So if you're interested in eating healthier, this one is Cooking After Cancer. So I will be there to give some insights on nutrition, plant-based nutrition perspective on that. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week on Monday for B-Day. Again, hit us in the comments with your strategies for sharing truth with people that you may meet resistance, for sticking to your guns, if you will. And we'll see you guys next time.
We can't wait to see you. Take good care, loves. Peace.